3 days before my granddaughter Mara's nursing pinning, my daughter sent me 6 words. There isn't a seat for you. My blue shirt was already pressed. Mara had asked me months earlier what time I would arrive, so I could not tell whether she had changed her mind or whether someone had answered for her. I read the message twice at my kitchen table. Then I set the phone face down beside the bowl where I kept my keys. Instead, I called Mara. She did not answer. I knew she had a review session that afternoon, so I decided to leave a message after I gave Denise one chance to answer a direct question. For 32 years, I drove a city bus. A driver learns that the first reaction is rarely the useful one. A horn can tell you somebody is angry. It cannot tell you which lane is safe. I had been retired for 4 years, but my hands still knew how to wait before moving. The first reply I typed was not useful. I erased it. The second one was shorter. Does Mara know you sent this? My daughter Denise answered before the screen dimmed. Please don't make this harder. The auditorium is small. Mara understands. That was not an answer. I could have called Denise and demanded an explanation until one of us made the next 3 days worse. I could also have assumed silence was kind and let her explain me to everyone else. I did neither. I left Mara the message I had promised myself I would leave. Hi, sweetheart. Your mother told me there isn't a seat for me at the pinning. If that's what you decided, I will respect it. I only wanted you to hear from me that I was planning to come, and that I am proud of you either way. You don't need to call before your review. Take care of what is in front of you. I hung up before I could add anything that sounded like a plea. 7 minutes later, Mara called. She did not say hello. Grandpa, what do you mean there isn't a seat? I looked at the clock above my stove. It was 3:18. I mean, your mother texted me that there wasn't one. There was a pause filled with voices behind her and the heavy closing of a door. She told me you weren't coming. That was the first turn in the road. Until then, I had believed I might be facing a choice Mara had made. Painful choices still belong to the people who make them. I could have been hurt and left her choice alone. But Mara had been told I had refused, and I had been told she had no place for me. Did she say why? I asked. She said big ceremonies make you uncomfortable now. She said you didn't want to deal with parking and crowds. I almost laughed, though nothing about it was funny. I had driven holiday routes through downtown traffic with 60 people behind me and a stalled delivery truck ahead. Parking was not the obstacle. I never said that. Mara breathed out slowly. I have the form open right now, she said. The one for the pinning. It asks who I want as my pinner. I haven't put a name in yet. I knew the ceremony involved a pin. I had not known the students chose someone to place it. Who do you want? I asked. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Then figure it out. Don't choose anybody because you're angry. Are you angry? Yes. It was the most honest answer I could give her without handing her my anger to carry. I need to talk to you in person, she said. Can we meet tomorrow? We chose a diner halfway between my apartment and the college. Before we ended the call, she asked me not to answer any more messages from her mother that night. I can do that, I said. My phone buzzed twice after supper. I left it face down. There had been a time when Denise did not mind anyone knowing she needed my help. She was 24 when Mara was born. Mara's father left before her 2nd birthday, and Denise worked whatever hours the medical billing office gave her. Some weeks she opened at 7. Other weeks she stayed until 8. Daycare had rules, buses had schedules, children got fevers, and rent did not care whether the pieces fit. I was still driving then. My route supervisor, Cal, let us bid schedules every few months. I chose the early split shift more than once because it gave me a long break in the afternoon. I would finish the morning run, leave my uniform jacket in the car, pick Mara up, and take her to Denise's apartment. On late weeks, I came back after my evening route and sat on the couch until Denise got home. I did not raise Mara by myself. Denise did the hard daily work. She packed lunches, found money for school pictures, sat up through ear infections, and learned how to braid hair from a woman in the apartment downstairs. But I was there often enough that Mara knew the sound of my key and the number of stops from her elementary school to my depot. When she was 8, she made a map in purple crayon showing my route as a loop around every place she cared about. Her school was too far north. My apartment floated near the river. The grocery store was as large as the hospital. The map was wrong in every practical way, but she had put us all on the same line. I kept it on my refrigerator for years. Then the paper faded. And Mara, at 17, told me I was allowed to throw away something she had drawn in 3rd grade. I did. That matters because I do not want to make Mara's life sound like an account she owed me for. I did not pay her college tuition. I did not choose nursing for her. I was not secretly carrying the family while Denise took credit. Denise carried plenty. What I gave was time. When Mara started her nursing program, she sometimes had an early skills lab before the first regular bus reached campus. I drove her. When she had a long day and did not want advice, I picked her up and let the radio fill the car. On Sundays, she called around 4. Sometimes we talked for 40 minutes. Sometimes she said, "I'm alive, Grandpa, but I have 3 chapters left," and hung up after 2. Denise had begun to treat those small arrangements differently during Mara's final year. If I asked Mara what time she needed a ride, Denise answered. If Mara invited me to a student fundraiser, Denise called later to explain that Mara was overwhelmed and probably had not meant it. Once, after I brought soup to Denise when she had the flu, she stood in her doorway and said, "Dad, you don't have to keep proving you're useful." I told her I thought I was bringing soup. She apologized the next day, but something in her had become watchful whenever I was included. I thought she was tired. I thought maybe my presence reminded her of years when she had less control over her own life. I did not ask enough questions. Avoiding a difficult conversation can look a great deal like patience from the inside. At the diner the next morning, Mara was already in a booth with a mug between both hands. She wore gray scrubs under a long sweater. Her hair was tied back, and there were half-moons beneath her eyes. I sat across from her. "How was the review?" "Awful." "Fine." "I don't know." "That sounds like most reviews." She almost smiled. Then she turned her phone toward me. On the screen was a message from Denise, sent 2 weeks earlier. "Your grandpa says he'll celebrate with us another time. Crowds aren't his thing anymore." Below it, Mara had replied, "Are you sure?" He asked when he should arrive. Denise's answer was, "He doesn't want you worrying about him. Let me handle it." Mara watched my face. "Did you tell her any of that?" "No." "Did you tell her you wanted to celebrate another time?" "No." She took her phone back and placed it beside the sugar jar. "I asked her last night why your story was different." "What did she say?" "That you were confused." That hurt more than the seat. I was 68. I sometimes entered a room and forgot why. I had once put the television remote in the pantry and accused nobody but myself. I was not confused about a ceremony I had written on 2 calendars. Mara leaned forward. "I don't believe her." "You should still hear her." "I have heard her." "That's the problem." She told me about a cousin's birthday dinner in March. Mara had asked Denise to invite me because Denise was coordinating the reservation. Denise later told Mara I had another commitment. She told me the dinner was only for cousins. There had been a campus picnic in May. Mara thought I was visiting an old coworker. I had been told students could bring only parents. Each event had been small enough to dismiss. Together, they formed a line. "Why didn't you call me?" Mara asked. It was a fair question. Because I thought you were busy, and I did not want every invitation to become a test of how much you loved me. You could have asked. Yes. I did not tell her that Denise had trained both of us to mistake going around her for starting trouble. Mara was already seeing that. There were other moments neither of us had recognized at the time. In January, Mara had mailed me a handwritten invitation to a small ceremony where her class received their final clinical assignments. It never reached me. Denise had offered to take the envelopes to the post office because Mara was rushing to an exam. Mine stayed beneath the passenger seat of Denise's car until she found it weeks later. At least, that was what she had said. I remembered Denise bringing the bent envelope to my apartment and laughing about her messy car. I had laughed too. I never asked why she had not called when she found it before the event, or why she had told Mara I had received it and was too tired to attend. Mara pulled up another exchange. The night of that ceremony, she had sent Denise a photograph and asked whether Grandpa liked it. He said you looked beautiful, Denise had written. I had never seen the picture. Mara turned the screen dark. She made up an answer from you. It was probably an answer she believed I would give. That doesn't make it yours. She was right. Denise's habit was not only keeping us apart. She had begun constructing a safe version of our relationship that moved through her, one in which I was always proud but rarely present, and Mara was always loving but too busy to call. Nobody had to risk a direct disappointment because Denise supplied every answer. The arrangement had survived partly because the invented answers sounded kind. Denise had lied, and Mara and I had accepted too many second-hand explanations because challenging them felt impolite. Something different would require risking a direct no from the person entitled to give it. She opened the pinning form again. It gave each student space to name one person. The note said a pinner could be a relative, friend, or mentor, and needed to arrive early for check-in. The deadline was the next afternoon. Mom thinks she's doing it, Mara said. Did you ask her? No. Did you ask anybody? Not yet. The server came with our breakfasts. Mara had ordered toast and eggs, but only moved them around the plate. If I ask you, she said, will you do it? There are questions you think you have waited years to hear. When they arrive, the years are not the important part. If you ask me because you want me there, yes. What if part of me wants her to see it? Then wait until that part quiets down. She looked irritated. You always do that. Do what? Make me be fair to somebody who wasn't fair to you? I am asking you to be fair to yourself. This is your ceremony. You should remember who you chose, not who you punished. She finally took a bite of toast. I am going to ask her one question, she said. Then I will decide. Before we left, Mara asked whether I would be disappointed if she chose her mother after all. I looked through the diner window at cars entering from two directions and taking turns at a narrow exit. Yes, I said. But disappointment is survivable. Being maneuvered is what I object to. You wouldn't stay home? If you invited me as a guest, I would sit wherever you put me. If you asked for space, I would give it. What I won't do is accept an answer somebody invented for you. She studied me for a moment. I need you to promise something else. What? If I choose you, don't spend the whole ceremony watching Mom. The request landed because she knew me. Restraint can still revolve around the person causing harm. You can remain perfectly quiet and let them occupy every thought. I promise, I said. We paid separately. Mara insisted on that too. In the parking lot, she hugged me and then stood back. Tomorrow afternoon is the deadline. I remember. Of course you do. She drove away first. I waited until her car reached the street, then went into the hardware store and finally remembered I needed light bulbs. Denise called me 40 minutes after I left the diner. I was in the parking lot of a hardware store, though I no longer remembered what I had meant to buy. You met with her behind my back, she said. Mara asked to meet me. You know what I mean. No, Denise. I know what you said. Her breath sharpened over the line. I was trying to keep this simple. By telling each of us, the other one said no. The auditorium is small. Does Mara choose her pinner? That is not the point. It seems close to the point. She lowered her voice. She was going to ask me. Did she? I'm her mother. That answer told me more than she meant it to. Denise had imagined a picture. Mara on stage. Denise placing the pin. The years of exhaustion folded into one public moment where the person beside Mara was the person who had done it all. Except nobody had done it all. I am not taking anything from you, I said. You always say that while making sure everyone knows you were there. I drove her when she asked for rides. I went where I was invited. Exactly. You got to be the dependable one. I got to be the mother who needed help. For the first time, the shape of her anger was clear. It did not excuse the lie. It did explain why my pressed shirt felt like an accusation to her. You were a young mother who worked and raised a good child, I said. Getting help did not erase that. You don't know what people thought? Then tell them the truth. Easy for you to say. It is not easy. It is only necessary. She ended the call. That afternoon, Mara went to her mother's house. I know what happened because Mara told me later, and Denise eventually confirmed the parts that concerned her. I did not hear their voices through a door. I did not arrive unexpectedly with perfect timing. I was at home cleaning a coffee maker that did not need cleaning. Mara asked one question. Did Grandpa ever tell you he wasn't coming? Denise began with the size of the auditorium. Then she mentioned parking. Then she said I had been tired lately. Mara asked again. Did he tell you he wasn't coming? Denise said, not in those exact words. What exact words did he use? There were none. Mara then showed her the message about there being no seat. Denise admitted she had sent it without talking to Mara. She said she had planned to smooth everything over after the ceremony. She said she wanted one day when she did not have to feel as though her father had done the important part of raising her daughter. Mara did not shout. That surprised Denise more than shouting would have. You made him think I didn't want him, she said. And you made me think he didn't want to come. Which one of us was that supposed to protect? Denise told her she would understand when she had children. Mara stood. I understand now. That evening, Denise called me again. If you let her put your name on that form, everybody will know there is a problem. There is a problem. You could step back. Mara has not asked me yet. But you know she will. No. I know she will choose. Denise gave a small, tired laugh. You love sounding reasonable. I am trying to be clear. Clear? Fine. If you do this, you are choosing yourself over your daughter. For years, that sentence would have stopped me. There is a role some families give to the calm person. You are expected to absorb the sharp thing because you can. If you stop absorbing it, people say you changed. I will not ask Mara to erase her choice so you can hide yours, I said. Denise was silent. I continued before courage became anger. I will not argue with you at her ceremony. I will not tell relatives what happened. I will not make a speech. But if Mara asks me to come, I will come. Then don't expect me to pretend I'm fine. I don't. The next morning, Mara called at 9:10. I slept on it, she said. Good. I put your name on the form. I sat on the edge of my bed. Are you sure? Yes. Not because I'm angry. I'm still angry. But that isn't why. I want the person who kept showing up to be the person standing there. She gave me the check-in time, the entrance, and the name of the coordinator. The ceremony started at 2. Pinners needed to arrive by 1:15. "I'll be there at 1, I said. "I knew you would say that." "Do you need me to say anything?" "On stage?" "Absolutely not." That was my preference. Her laugh was brief, but it was the first sound that week that did not carry another question behind it. The night before the ceremony, I stood in front of my closet looking at the blue shirt. My friend Cal called. Retirement had turned him into a man who called at 9 because he knew everybody else was home. I told him enough to explain why I was worried. "You thinking of staying home?" he asked. "For about 5 minutes at a time." "Would that make the day easier for Mara?" "No." "Then quit borrowing trouble." Cal had never wasted words when 3 would do. After we hung up, I took the card with the building name from my desk and drove the route once. It was not necessary. I knew that. But I wanted to know which entrance faced the visitor lot and where road construction narrowed the east lane. On the way back, I passed the apartment building where Denise and Mara had lived when Mara was small. The brick had been painted gray. The drugstore on the corner was now a tax office. I remembered Denise carrying a sleeping 4-year-old up 2 flights after a 12-hour day, refusing my offer because she wanted to prove she could do it. Halfway up, she had stopped and said, "Actually, Dad, take the bag." I had taken the bag. Not the child. Not the whole burden. Just what she asked me to carry. Somewhere over the years, help had changed meaning for her. She remembered it as evidence collected against her, instead of the ordinary way a family gets through a hard season. I could understand that wound and still refuse to let her pass it to Mara. When I reached home, there was a voicemail from Denise. I listened once. "I know you think you're helping," she said, "but Mara and I have to live with what happens after you make your point." I did not return the call. I wrote down what I wanted to remember the next day. Mara chose. The ceremony is hers. No argument. Then I put the note in a drawer. I did not need to carry it into the auditorium like instructions. The choice had already been made. I set 2 alarms. I woke before both. On the day of the pinning, I left my apartment at 12:22 for a drive that usually took 26 minutes. I had checked the college map the night before. I had written the building name on a card in my pocket, although Mara had also texted it to me. The parking lot was half full when I arrived. Families moved toward the auditorium carrying flowers and garment bags. A woman in a red dress was trying to keep 2 balloons from tangling around a light pole. I sat in my car for 1 minute. Then I went inside. At the check-in table, a coordinator asked my name. "Arthur Bell. I'm here for Mara Lewis." She found me on the list and handed me a card with Mara's name printed beneath mine. "Pinners wait through those doors," she said. "Students will meet you before the processional." That was all. No exception. No argument about seats. No administrator asked which relative deserved what. Mara had made a choice before the deadline, and the college had put my name where she asked them to put it. Denise found me near the auditorium doors. She wore a dark green dress and held a small white gift bag. Her face looked composed from a distance. Up close, I could see she had been crying. "You came early," she said. "They asked Pinners to." Her eyes moved to the card in my hand. "You can still step aside." "No." "Dad, please." "People are going to wonder. Most people are going to watch their own children. Our family won't." "Then tell them Mara chose me." "You know it isn't that simple." "It is that true." She looked past me toward the doors. I wanted one thing that was mine. There was the hurt beneath the control. For 1 second, she was 24 again, asleep at my kitchen table after a double shift, terrified that needing help meant she had failed. I loved that young woman. I loved the woman in front of me. Love did not require me to hand her Mara's choice. She is not a thing that belongs to either of us, I said. Denise flinched. I wished I could soften the sentence without changing it. I could not. I won't embarrass you, I said. I won't discuss this here. But I will do what Mara asked. The coordinator opened the doors and called the pinners inside. I walked through. Mara was waiting in a line of students wearing white uniforms beneath dark graduation stoles. Some held flowers. Some were laughing too loudly, in the way people do when they are afraid they will cry. When she saw me, her shoulders dropped. "You came," she said. "You asked." She hugged me. It was quick because the line was moving. The coordinator showed us where to sit and explained the order. I listened, but there was little to remember. When Mara's name was called, I would meet her at the marked place. The pin was already fastened to a backing that made it easier to handle. The auditorium filled. Denise sat in the third row with Mara's aunt and 2 cousins. She did not look at me when the pinners entered. The ceremony began with a welcome. Then a student speaker talked about early mornings, mistakes corrected in lab, and the people who had kept faith with them. I watched Mara in the front row. She rubbed her thumb against the side of her hand, a habit she had had since childhood. Names were called one by one. A husband pinned his wife. A woman in a navy suit pinned her sister. One student chose a faculty member. Families applauded for every name, but each cluster of sound had its own direction. Then the announcer said, "Mara Lewis." I stood. The distance to the marked place was perhaps 20 feet. It felt both longer and simpler than the entire week before it. Mara met me beneath the stage lights. My hands shook when I lifted the pin. She noticed and held the edge of her stole steady. I fastened it, checked that it sat straight, and let my hands fall. There were 100 things I could have said. "You earned this," I told her. Her eyes filled. "You came," she said again. Then we moved as the coordinator had instructed, and the next name was called. There was no gasp from the crowd. No one stood to condemn Denise. Nothing went viral. The applause belonged to Mara, as it should have. But the truth was visible. At the reception in the courtyard, Denise arranged us before anyone had decided to pose. "Let's get one with the 3 of us," she said. Then one with everybody. Mara held her flowers against her waist. "Not yet." Denise's smile stayed in place. "What do you mean?" I don't want a picture that makes this look like a misunderstanding." Mara's aunt glanced between them. Denise lowered her voice. "This is not the place." I agree. I am not going to argue. But Aunt Renee asked why Grandpa was standing with the pinners, and you told her it was a last-minute change. Renee looked down at the gift bag in her hand. Mara continued. "It wasn't. I chose him. Mom told him there was no seat and told me he refused to come. I don't want to fight. I do want the story to stop changing." Denise's face lost its practiced expression. One cousin began to say something, but Mara lifted a hand. "Nobody needs to take sides. From now on, if I invite someone, I will contact them myself. If Grandpa wants to ask me something, he will call me. Nobody answers for anybody else." Denise still stood with the family and held the gift bag. Mara did not order her to leave, but the place Denise had occupied between us was gone. "Can we take a picture later?" Denise asked. "After you tell Aunt Renee it wasn't last minute." Denise looked at her sister. For several seconds, she said nothing. "I can't do this right now." She walked toward the parking lot. Mara closed her eyes. I wanted to tell her she had done the right thing. I wanted to make the moment clean. It was not clean. "What do you need?" I asked. "To go home." "Do you want a ride?" "No. I want 20 minutes by myself, and then I'll call a friend." "All right." I did not turn her independence into another rejection. Grandpa? Yes? Thank you for not saying anything up there. It was your day. It still is. It just doesn't feel like it right now. Give it time. She nodded and walked back into the building to collect her things. I left at 4:37. My blue shirt felt tight around the neck, and I loosened the top button before starting the car. 2 days later, Denise came to my apartment. She did not call first. That was an old habit, too. I let her in. She stood in my living room without taking off her coat. "I'm sorry things got out of hand," she said. I waited. "What?" she asked. "What got out of hand?" "The ceremony. Mara. All of it. That is not an apology for what you did." I said I was sorry. "You told Mara I refused to come. You told me she had no seat for me." "Which part are you sorry for?" Her jaw tightened. "You want me to humiliate myself." "No. I want you to name the thing you want forgiven." She turned toward the window. "I wanted to pin my daughter." "You could have asked her." "I shouldn't have had to." That belief is where the trouble started. She looked at me then. "Do you know what it was like? Every time somebody praised her, they praised you too." Grandpa drove her. Grandpa picked her up. Grandpa never missed anything. Nobody talked about the nights I stayed awake or the bills I paid. "I know you did those things." "You always say that calmly, like you're handing me a certificate." My own temper rose. Calm is not the absence of temper. Sometimes it is just the last door before it. "What would you have had me do, Denise? Leave Mara waiting so you could look more independent?" She stared at me. I was disgusted. I regretted the sharpness, but not the question. "No," she said. "Helping you was not a judgment. Loving her was not a campaign against you." Denise sat on the edge of the chair. "I know that here," she said, touching her forehead. "I don't know it anywhere else." That was the first true thing she had offered me. It was not enough to restore trust. "Mara thinks I am a liar." "You lied to her." "Can you tell her I was under pressure?" "No." "Can you tell her I am sorry?" "You can tell her." She gave me a look full of old expectation. I had carried messages between them before. I had translated Denise's worry into gentler language, and Mara's frustration into something Denise could hear. I had called that peacemaking. This time I left the message with its owner. "I will not speak for you," I said. "And I won't let you speak for me anymore." "So that's it?" "No. It means if you call me, you call as yourself. If you invite me, tell me who invited me. If Mara says no, you do not turn it into my decision. We can have contact. We cannot have the old arrangement." Denise stood. "You make boundaries sound so reasonable. They are still boundaries when you don't like them." She left without saying goodbye. The first Sunday after the pinning, Mara called at 4. We did not discuss her mother for the first 20 minutes. She told me about an orientation schedule connected to a new job. I asked what time she needed to leave home. She laughed and said she owned an alarm clock. The next Sunday, she called at 4:12 and apologized. "You do not need to arrive early to a phone call," I told her. "I learned from you." "Then you learned the wrong lesson." We began meeting for breakfast twice a month. Not every breakfast carried a revelation. At one, Mara complained about the price of tires. At another, I explained why I had stopped watching a detective show we both disliked. Once we sat for nearly 5 minutes without speaking because she was tired. That ordinary silence did more for me than the applause in the auditorium. We had a relationship that no longer required an emergency to justify direct contact. We also learned how much direct contact asks of people. In the second month, Mara forgot we had planned breakfast and slept until almost noon. I had already driven to the diner. The old arrangement offered me two easy mistakes. I could call Denise to locate her, or I could tell Denise later and let my disappointment become evidence that Mara was irresponsible. I did neither. I ordered coffee, read half the newspaper, and went home. When Mara woke, she called me herself. I am so sorry. I was worried for 15 minutes and annoyed for 45. You can be mad. I was. Now choose another day. She did. We met on Tuesday. That missed breakfast mattered because direct relationships do not guarantee pleasant answers. They only make the right people responsible for them. Mara could disappoint me without her mother translating it. I could say I was annoyed without threatening to withdraw love. Later that month, Denise called Mara during one of our walks. Mara glanced at the screen and answered. "I'm with Grandpa," she said. I prepared myself to hear an explanation of why the call needed to end. Instead, Mara listened, said, "I can call you tonight," and slipped the phone back into her pocket. "Everything all right?" I asked. Yes. She wanted to know if I had seen her blue scarf. We kept walking. It was a tiny event. That was exactly why it mattered. Denise had contacted her daughter directly, received a limit, and allowed the limit to stand. No one turned it into a referendum on loyalty. Denise did not call for 3 weeks. Then Mara forwarded me a message from her. "I am sorry I lied about Grandpa declining and about the seat. I wanted to control who stood with you because I felt ashamed of how much help I needed when you were young. That was mine, not yours. You did not deserve to be put between us." Mara wrote beneath it, "She sent this to you too?" I checked. Denise had. It was the first specific apology. I answered Denise with 2 sentences. "Thank you for naming it. I need time, but I read every word." She did not demand more. In the 4th month, my niece Renee planned a small retirement dinner for her husband. Denise was helping with invitations. A message arrived from her. "Renee asked me to send you the date. This invitation is from both of them. Please answer Renee directly, not me." It would have been easy to dismiss that as administrative. In our family, it was a change. I called Renee. I attended the dinner. Denise and I spoke politely and did not perform closeness for anyone. At the end of the evening, Renee asked if I needed help carrying a folding chair to her garage. Denise was standing nearby. "Dad's back has been bothering him," she began. Then she stopped. "Sorry," she said to me. "Do you want help?" "Yes," I said. "Take the light end." We carried the chair together. It was not reconciliation. It was one corrected sentence followed by an ordinary task. 2 weeks later, Denise invited me to lunch. I declined. I was not testing her. Cal and I had plans to visit another retired driver who had moved an hour away. The old Denise would have called Mara and said I was punishing her. She would have found a way to make my unavailable afternoon carry a verdict. This Denise wrote, "Understood. Another time if you want." Then she left it alone. There was no follow-up through Mara. No remark to Renee about how hard I was making things. When Denise invited me again 3 weeks later, she gave me a day and place and asked whether I was free. I was. Lunch lasted 40 minutes. We discussed the building heat, her office moving to another floor, and whether Cal had always cheated at cards. Near the end, she started to say, "Mara thinks—" She stopped herself. "I should let Mara tell you what Mara thinks." "Yes." She nodded. Neither of us decorated the moment with praise. Mara noticed too. Neither of us rewarded Denise like a child. Changed behavior is not a trick that earns immediate access, but we allowed the change to count. By the 6th month, our family was not repaired in the way photographs suggest. There was no single meal where everybody cried, confessed, and passed forgiveness around the table. Mara still checked information directly. I still felt a tightening in my chest when Denise said Mara told me, until I knew whether Mara actually had. Some damage does not vanish. It loses authority. The pinning became one day in Mara's life rather than the final ruling on ours. She worked long hours and occasionally forgot Sunday altogether. I learned not to turn a missed call into proof of anything. She learned that she could invite me because she wanted me, not because she had to repay a history of rides. One Sunday in November, 4 o'clock passed without the phone ringing. I knew Mara was working. She had told me herself. At 4:26, my phone lit up with Denise's name. For a moment, I considered letting it go to voicemail. Then I answered. "Hi, Dad," she said. "Hello, Denise. Mara didn't ask me to call. She is working, and this has nothing to do with her." The sentence was awkward. That was why I believed it. "All right," I said. "I wondered how your week was." I told her Cal had beaten me at cards and accused me of distracting him when I asked for a rematch. I told her the heat in my building had come on too high and I had slept with a window open. Denise listened. She did not explain Mara to me. She did not ask me to carry a message. She did not turn the call into a request for forgiveness. After 12 minutes, she said, "I should let you go. You can call again next Sunday if you want." There was a pause. I'd like that. When the call ended, I set the phone beside my keys. Nothing was finished. That was no longer the same as nothing changing.